you are probably not lazy. But every time you delay something important, your mind collects evidence that you are. You wake up with a plan. You know exactly what needs to be done. You may even feel a brief moment of motivation. Then something strange happens. You check your phone for a minute. You watch one video. You tell yourself you will start after breakfast, after coffee, after you feel more focused. Hours pass. And by the end of the day, you are not only disappointed with what you failed to do. You are disappointed with who you seem to be becoming. That is the real damage. Procrastination does not simply steal your time. It slowly changes your identity. The more often you avoid action, the more your mind begins to whisper, maybe this is just who I am. But laziness is rarely a permanent personality trait. More often, it is a mental pattern. A pattern of escaping discomfort before discomfort has the chance to make you stronger. Most people try to break this pattern in the wrong way. They insult themselves. They watch motivational videos. They create strict schedules they cannot maintain. They promise that tomorrow will be different. And for a few hours, they feel powerful. But then the old behavior returns. Not because they are weak. Because they are trying to fight the visible behavior without understanding the invisible reward behind it. Every pattern survives because it gives you something. Even a destructive pattern. Avoiding work gives you relief. Scrolling gives you stimulation. Staying in bed gives you comfort. Making excuses protects you from the possibility of failure. The reward may last only a few minutes, but your brain learns quickly. It begins to connect difficult tasks with emotional pain and avoidance with immediate safety. That is the loop. A task appears. You feel tension. You escape. The tension drops. Your brain remembers the relief. The next time the task appears, the urge to escape becomes stronger. What you call laziness may actually be a well-practiced habit of emotional avoidance. You are not always avoiding the work itself. Sometimes, you are avoiding what the work makes you feel. Confused. Inadequate. Bored. Exposed. Uncertain. Afraid that you may try your hardest and still discover that you are not as capable as you hoped. That fear is more common than people admit. It feels safer to say, I could succeed if I really tried, than to try completely and risk failing. So the mind creates delays. It waits for the perfect mood. The perfect plan. The perfect burst of confidence. Because as long as you have not fully started, your potential remains untested. You can still imagine that a more disciplined version of you exists somewhere in the future. But that future version never arrives. Because every day, the present version keeps negotiating with discomfort. Think about how this appears in real life. You want to exercise, but you imagine the entire exhausting workout instead of the first 5 minutes. You need to study, but your mind jumps ahead to the frustration of not understanding everything. You want to apply for a better job, but you picture rejection before you even update your resume. You need to have a difficult conversation, but you replay every possible way it could go wrong. The task becomes emotionally larger than it really is. And once the imagined pain grows large enough, doing nothing feels reasonable. This is one of the mind's most convincing tricks. It makes avoidance feel like logic. You say you are waiting for clarity. But sometimes you are waiting for certainty, and certainty does not exist. You say you are protecting your energy. But sometimes you are protecting your comfort. You say the timing is wrong. But sometimes you are afraid that the moment you begin, excuses will no longer protect your self-image. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Every time you avoid a necessary action, you teach yourself that discomfort has authority over you. And every time you act despite discomfort, you weaken that authority. Discipline is not the absence of resistance. It is the decision that resistance does not get the final vote. This is why highly disciplined people do not necessarily feel more motivated than everyone else. They have simply stopped treating every feeling as an instruction.
They can feel tired without immediately quitting.
They can feel uncertain without demanding reassurance.
They can feel bored without reaching for stimulation.
They understand something most people never learn. A feeling can be real without being obeyed. You can acknowledge that you do not want to begin and begin anyway. That single ability changes everything. But you cannot build it by waiting for one dramatic moment of transformation.
You build it through small acts that contradict your old identity.
The first step is to stop calling yourself lazy.
Not because you should protect yourself from the truth, but because vague labels hide specific problems.
I am lazy gives you nowhere to go.
It turns a temporary behavior into a permanent identity.
Replace it with a more accurate sentence.
I avoid tasks when I feel overwhelmed.
I escape when I fear doing something badly. I seek stimulation when progress feels slow.
I delay decisions when I cannot guarantee the outcome.
Now the problem becomes visible. And what becomes visible can be changed.
The second step is to reduce the emotional size of the task. Your brain resists vague, heavy commands.
Fix your life. Get in shape. Build a career. Become disciplined. These are not actions. They are mountains.
And your mind cannot climb a mountain in one movement.
So give it a doorway.
Do not tell yourself to complete the workout.
Put on your shoes and move for 5 minutes.
Do not tell yourself to write the whole project.
Open the document and write one imperfect paragraph. Do not promise to study all evening.
Read one page and explain it in your own words. Your first objective is not to finish.
It is to remove the psychological distance between you and the task. Momentum usually comes after movement, not before it.
The third step is to stop using comfort as the starting condition for action. Many people unknowingly live by a rule that sounds harmless.
I will do it when I feel ready.
But readiness often appears only after you begin.
Confidence is usually evidence-based. You act.
You survive the discomfort. You see yourself continue.
Then your mind develops trust in you.
Not the other way around.
You do not become confident and then keep promises to yourself.
You keep small promises to yourself, and confidence grows from the evidence.
This is where self-respect is built. Not in the speeches you give yourself. In the moments when no one is watching and you do what you said you would do. Even badly. Even slowly.
Even without excitement. The fourth step is to identify your favorite form of escape.
Everyone has one. For some people, it is social media.
For others, it is food, sleep, gaming, endless planning, cleaning, researching, or helping everyone accept themselves.
Some forms of avoidance even look productive. You redesign the schedule instead of doing the work. You watch 10 videos about discipline instead of practicing discipline.
You spend hours choosing the perfect method because choosing feels safer than committing.
Ask yourself a direct question. When discomfort appears, where do I usually run? Do not judge the answer. Study it. Your escape pattern is not random. It is the route your brain has learned to take toward immediate relief. Make that route less convenient. Keep your phone outside the room. Block distracting websites.
Prepare your workspace the night before.
Remove choices from the first hour of your day. Do not depend on willpower when you can redesign the environment.
Human behavior often follows the path of least resistance. So make useful action easier and automatic escape slightly harder. But there is a deeper part of this pattern that cannot be solved by productivity techniques alone. You may need to accept that meaningful work will sometimes make you feel bad.
Not fulfilled. Not inspired. Bad.
There will be days when effort feels empty.
Days when improvement seems invisible. Days when you question whether anything is changing. This is where most people retreat.
They assume the absence of emotional reward means the action is not working. But growth is often silent before it becomes visible.
A person can train for weeks before noticing strength. Study for months before recognizing mastery.
Set boundaries repeatedly before feeling confident.
Save money slowly before feeling secure.
The early stages of change are psychologically difficult because you pay the price before receiving the proof.
You give up comfort now for a result you cannot yet see.
That requires trust. Not blind trust in success. Trust in the value of becoming someone who can continue without immediate reward.
This is where discipline becomes philosophical. You are always becoming someone through repetition. Every action is a vote. When you delay, you vote for the identity that escapes. When you begin, you vote for the identity that confronts. One vote does not define you. But repeated votes create a pattern. And patterns eventually feel like personality. That means you do not have to rebuild your entire life today. You only have to cast the next vote carefully. The next time your mind says, later, pause. Do not immediately fight it. Observe it. Notice the discomfort underneath the excuse. Maybe the task is boring. Maybe you are afraid. Maybe you feel behind. Maybe the first step is unclear. Name the feeling. Then make the action smaller.
And begin before your mind creates another story.
5 minutes. 1 page. 1 phone call. 1 honest conversation. 1 small promise kept. This may look insignificant from the outside. But internally, something important is happening. You are teaching your nervous system that discomfort is survivable. You are showing your mind that an urge is not a command. You are proving that the version of you who takes action is not imaginary. It is already present.
It has simply been outvoted by old habits. There will still be difficult days.
You will still waste time.
You will still fall back into old patterns sometimes.
Do not turn one bad day into a new identity. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to shorten the distance between avoidance and return. Maybe you disappear for an hour. Come back. Maybe you lose a morning. Come back. Maybe you waste an entire week. Come back.
The strongest people are not those who never lose momentum. They are those who refuse to turn a temporary failure into permanent surrender.
Eventually, you will notice a shift.
The task will still feel uncomfortable, but it will no longer feel impossible. The voice telling you to delay will still appear, but it will sound less convincing. You will begin to trust yourself, not because you always feel powerful, but because you have seen yourself act while feeling weak.
That is real confidence. That is real discipline. And that is how the pattern breaks. Not through hatred. Not through one perfect morning. Not through waiting for motivation to rescue you. It breaks each time you feel the familiar urge to escape and choose one small act of courage instead. Your life is not being decided only by your biggest choices. It is being shaped in quiet moments when comfort asks you to abandon yourself. You do not need to win the rest of your life today. You only need to stop betraying the next promise you make to yourself. Because the moment you begin acting like someone you can respect, laziness stops being your identity and becomes what it always was. A pattern you learned. And a pattern you are capable of unlearning. If this helped you see yourself differently, subscribe for more deep psychology and self-improvement lessons.